lights on. Is this too bright? Or is it fine? Let me just go a little lighter. Here, can you see me fine? Can you see me fine? I hope you do. Is this too bright for you, or is it just about right for your eyes? I have heard that you've been struggling a little bit with your chronic pain. I know a lot of us chronic pain buddies have issues when it gets cold outside, and right now there's been a lot of more extreme weather changes. Oh, I know that can make things a lot worse. It can make us flare up. But I'm here, and we'll see if I can get you back on your feet, or just help you relieve your pain a little bit. First of all, I brought you some tea. This is a mixture of multiple herbs to just kind of calm the body down. But there's also some ginger in here, which, reduces, inflammations and can also help reduce some pain. So here's the tea. I'll just put it by the bedside table for you. And I also got you some ibuprofen. So, yeah, if you feel like nothing else helps, you can always just take a tablet. Trying not to make any harsh sounds, because I know when you're in a lot of pain, and you might even have a headache or a migraine on top of your regular chronic pain, that loud sounds can be very painful. Just gonna put that over there for you as well, so you can just grab it if you need it. And before we go any further, I have both a hot water bottle for you, or if you prefer some cold, I also brought you an ice pack that I already wrapped in some cloth so that it's not too cold. So, do you prefer the hot water bottle or the ice pack? That water bottle? Okay. This one? Yeah. It's quite big. It's a bit heavy, so, if the weight makes you uncomfortable, you can just tell me, and I'll get you a smaller one. But I usually prefer this one, because it just stays warm a lot longer than the small ones. Where do you want it? Okay, let's place it for you. blanket would be nice. Yeah, let me get you one. I have this very, very adorable fox blanket. Cute things always make you feel a little better. At least that's the case for me. It's just, a little bit of dopamine. Just helps you feel a little better. So let me just cover you in the blanket. Alright like that? Yeah. Is it alright like that? Okay. Alright. I just realized, I forgot the little, vomit bags in case you feel sick. I know that can happen sometimes when you're in a lot of pain. Or just generally, nausea can get worse when you're feeling bad and when you're having a flare-up. However, I also have this little essential oil roller. I know sometimes, smells can be a bit too much. This is like an anti-stress roller. And, sometimes just a nice smell can be very soothing. Do you want a little, on your wrist? Too, so you can just smell it when you feel like it? No? Okay, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Is it okay if I touch you? Yeah, okay. Just wanna, scratch your scalp a little bit to just release the tension in your face and in your scalp. Is that fine? Sometimes just a little bit of touch can feel very nice and calming. Okay? Yeah. Is that okay? Is that okay? Yeah. Let me just, massage your forehead a little bit too. Go across your eyebrows. Is that fine? Yeah, okay. I just want to help you feel a little better. It's totally okay if you don't, but at least I tried. Yeah. When the flare-up started this morning, yeah. Yeah, the weather got very, it was quite cold the last couple of days, but now it's suddenly warm again, and that could just mess a lot with your circulation and your pain and everything. It can be very, very, very annoying. But it's gonna be okay. You'll get through it. You'll get through it. You'll get through it. It's going to be okay. You'll feel better soon. You'll feel better soon. You'll feel better soon. Yeah. You're gonna be okay. I know pain can be incredibly exhausting, and you know, it can be very horrible because there is nowhere you can escape from it because it's inside your body. You're stuck with it. But pain eventually always goes away. At least partially. Even if it doesn't go away fully, but at least you recover a tiny bit. At least there's always some ups between the downs. Just little periods of rest and freedom that we get away from the pain, or at least with reduced pain. You're gonna get better. It's gonna be okay. You just gotta hang tight. Just drink the tea. Try to relax your head and your arms. Let me just get your shoulders and your neck a little bit. Yeah. Let me just get your shoulders and your neck a little bit. You know, we gotta release the tension. Because with the pain, our muscles just contract and hold on to it. And sometimes simply letting go of your muscles also makes you let go of the pain. So it's important that you let go. You can do it. I know you can. Just have to relax a little bit. I know, it's easier said than done. And sometimes you don't manage to let go, but that's totally okay. Sometimes you just don't manage. And that is okay. That is okay. And you're okay. Pain can be scary. Pain can be scary. But you're okay. You're okay. And you're safe. I know with pain it can sometimes feel like there's something very bad going on in your body. And I mean, sometimes it does. But with chronic pain, it typically just exists. It doesn't cause any extra damage. The damage has already been made, but that's fine. The pain does not cause more damage. You're safe. You're safe. You're safe here. I'm here with you. There's nothing that can harm you right now. I got a book to distract you. I might have told you about it before already. It's a little dusty. Let me just get the dust off. It's called D. Like the letter D. It's a very pretty cover. And it's a very cute tale about a girl that tries 26 letters in the alphabet. You'd think that losing one of them wouldn't be so bad. But it was very bad indeed. Or very bad-in-knee, as everyone around her would put it. The book D was written by Michael Faber, or Michael Faber. I don't know if it's a German author, but the name sounds German, so I'm just gonna pronounce it Michael Faber. But it might just be Michael Faber, so I don't know. Let's begin. Here you can see the inside. And again, D, A Tale of Two Worlds by Michael Faber. The first, slightly shorter and significantly less hazardous half, set in this world. To begin with, the first ray of light each morning always made her feel the sun was in the wrong place, or she was in the wrong place, or both. She would wake in her big soft bed under a duvet decorated with smiling blonde princesses, and the cold English light would already be busy filling up the room, looking weird. She told her friend Mariette about this, and Mariette said, "It must be because you're missing the light back home." "Home?" said Diccolo. "Where you're from?" "I suppose so," said Diccolo. But she didn't suppose so, really. She had no memories of where she was from, and she'd never been back there. It didn't even exist. Mariette, Diccolo's best friend, came from France. Diccolo hadn't been there either, but it existed for sure. People went there all the time. It was just across the channel. On clear days, peering out over the cliffs at Colbert, she could even see it. It was a subtle haze between the silver gray of the water and the blue of the sky. The continent of Europe was very near. Ferries sailed back and forth from the white cliffs of Dover to a vaguely visible port called Calais, passing Colbert on the way through. Under the sea there was a tunnel for cars, lorries, and other vehicles, connecting England to the world beyond. During the summer it brought busloads of tourists to visit Colbert. The buses would park next to the avenue called the Promenade, and whole families of French people would walk along the cliffside, speaking their language, eating English snacks. Germans and Japanese and Spaniards and Italians, and Americans too. All these people came from proper countries that got mentioned in newspapers, and had politicians who shook other politicians' hands whilst photographers took pictures. Fiona, one of Diccolo's other pals, came from Scotland, which was also a country, even though you didn't have to cross the sea to get there. It was cool to come from Scotland. Everybody had heard of it. It was far away with magnificent ancient mountains and big modern cities, and was on TV quite often. A good combination. The place Diccolo came from was never on TV, and nobody had heard of it. Sometimes people would say they'd heard of it, but after a while she would realize that they really meant another country, whose name sounded similar, but it wasn't it. "I'm not from Somalia," she would say. "I'm from Somaliland." People would look at her disbelievingly, as if she had just told them that she came from Franceland or Australialand, as if she was just being silly. Or they would ask, "What's the difference?" and she couldn't answer because she didn't really know. Okay, second chapter is also very short, so I'm going to read that too. A leaflet with advice. Some names were a problem to have, and others weren't. Names like Gail and Sarah and Mariette and Lucy and Susan and even Sioban were okay, but Diccolo was too unusual and needed tweaking. Her friends called her Dickie. A few of the other girls called her Dick, and she wasn't sure if they meant it to be insulting. Diccolo sometimes had trouble figuring out if the other girls were being friendly to her or not. Not long after starting at secondary school, she'd been given a leaflet with advice about how to cope with bullying. She hadn't yet gotten around to reading it when an older girl called Kim squirted glue in her hair on purpose. Diccolo had a book in her hands at the time, a big heavy one, about history, and she hit the older girl on the forehead with it so hard that Kim fell over backwards and knocked over several of her chums. It was a very bad thing to do, and it could have caused brain damage, as her guidance teacher explained later. And when Diccolo got home, she read the leaflet about bullying, and had to admit that the suggestions in it didn't include knocking her tormentors flat. Anyway, nobody bullied Diccolo after that, unless counting being called Dick and not having as many friends as the average girl at school. She'd done the maths on this. The most popular girls had 13 to 14 pals they hung out with, and the least popular girls had 0, while 7 was the median. She'd learned that word in math class. Diccolo had 3. Arithmetically speaking, that put her in the bottom percentile of befriendness. But that was okay. 3 was plenty to be getting on with. People were so strange sometimes. You got tired just thinking about them. Lascanood is the next chapter. The last place Diccolo lived before being relocated to the south coast of England was a town called Lascanood, which sounded like a drink on a Middle Eastern restaurant menu that you'd think you might try, but then you get worried you won't like it and order a Pepsi instead. There was a big dramatic story attached to her in Lascanood, but it was quite confused and hazy because she'd been less than a year old at the time. There were various adults involved, who were all unavailable now. Basically, there was a war on, and her parents had split up, and she was being carried around by her father, but there was fighting between Somaliland and Puntland, and her father decided she would be better off not going where he was going. So he gave her away, and before she knew it, she was in Cobber on Sand. When other girls talked about their early life, there were usually loads of details, and the story went on and on and on until it grew big enough to fill a book. Her own story was awfully short, she had to admit, and there were quite a few holes in it. She should maybe have kept her eyes open and paid more attention at the time, but she was only a baby then, and babies slept a lot, and usually had their eyes closed. Each day, Diccolo walked home from school along the promenade. She would see the young mothers trundling their prams, and the babies would be asleep, even when the seagulls were screeching and the wind was fierce. They were charging their energy, postponing the day when they had to sit up and deal with stuff. When Diccolo was 11, just a couple of years ago, her mom told her that her mother was dead. That is, Ruth, her English mom, gave her the news that her original mom had died. Diccolo had trouble thinking of the right things to say. How old was she? She asked. 31, said her English mom. It says here she was holding a piece of official paper with the news printed on it. That's not very old, said Diccolo after a long pause. Was she sick? Ruth stared at the piece of paper and frowned. It doesn't say. What about Dad? looked at her indulgently. You mean your Somaliland aunt? Yes, said Diggalo. Her English mom smiled, her face all complicated with knowledge about grown-ups that couldn't be explained. Still a mystery man, I'm afraid. That was how she often referred to him. The mystery man. Nobody seemed to know what had become of him after he'd tossed Diggalo through the air into the arms of a nurse. By contrast, Diggalo's English dad was not a mystery man at all. He was in the next room reading a book about a retired politician with a mug of tea balanced on the arm of the sofa, and his name was Malcolm Bentley, which made his adopted daughter Diggalo Bentley, or sometimes, if she was in the mood to write a nice long line in the top of her school jotter, Diggalo Saksardit Samawada Bentley. Okay, one more chapter. What words meant. For a while after getting the news about her mother, Diggalo tried to learn more about her. At first it seemed that Malcolm and Ruth didn't know anything, and then after a while it seemed there might be some official stuff that Diggalo could find out. Maybe, but not until she was 18. Why 18? She asked. Because that's how law works, said Malcolm gently. They've thought very careful about these sorts of situations. Who's they? Asked Diggalo. The people whose job it is to figure out the best and kindest way to help children with questions, said Malcolm. And they decided there are things that are easier for a child like you to understand if you're a little bit older. But when I'm 18, I'm not a child anymore, said Diggalo. Yes, exactly, said Malcolm, as if she was seeing his point instead of disagreeing. Next, Diggalo had tried to learn more about the country of Somaliland, in case it helped her understand anything about her parents. Her geography teacher was no help, and there was nothing in the school library. She got the impression that no matter how hard you looked, there wasn't much to be found, especially if you're a young girl in Ameran Sands who spoke only English and a little French. There was a bookshop on the high street which had thousands of books, but none specifically about Somaliland. On their travel shelf, they had one guidebook for tourists who fancied going to lesser-known places in Africa that were beautiful, uncomfortable, and maybe dangerous. And in the middle of the book, there was a chapter about Somaliland. Diggalo read it in the shop. It didn't take long. Somaliland was big, almost as big as Britain, but had far fewer people living in it. It wasn't exactly desert, but it was desert-ish. It had a lot of cute goats and black-faced sheep who sometimes died of hunger when there wasn't enough rain to let crops grow. It had bats, pythons, and squirrels, and giant guinea piggy things called hyraxes. The skies in the photos were very blue and empty. The women wore headscarves. There weren't many shops, and you were supposed to buy stuff with a special kind of money that only existed in Somaliland. It wasn't worth anything anywhere else. The rest of the world still hadn't decided whether to accept Somaliland as a real country or not. That might happen one day, maybe, but not soon. Somalilanders were very keen for tourists to come, but that wasn't as simple as just going there in a tour bus and walking around eating ice cream. The war that had made Diggalo's father do what he did was officially over, but every now and then people started fighting again regardless. You weren't supposed to venture outside the main cities of Hargeisa and Berbera. If you wanted to go to Laskanud, the government insisted that you be accompanied by special soldiers who would make sure nothing bad happened to you. You were also supposed to buy a few bundles of chat leaf to give to guards at checkpoints so that they would let you through. Diggalo turned the page, hoping there would be a helpful picture of a chat leaf. But the next page was already a different country. She put the book back on the shelf. At home, Tikilo tried researching Somaliland on the internet. The internet had 1,000,000 pages on just about every subject in the universe, but amazingly little from Tikilo's country of origin. There was a website where Somalilanders argued with each other in a mixture of their own language and English, about stuff you could only understand if you weren't their gang, and another one where they discussed football. The most interesting website were the ones explaining what words meant. They couldn't agree on the spelling or whether the words were Somali or just generally Arabic, but there were some beautiful meanings. Sanzaxo, for example, meant the smell and the coolness carried on the wind from a place where it's raining to a place where it isn't. How could one little word mean something so marvelous? It made you realize that language wasn't just a code to communicate with, it was magic. Anyways, the word maraka sounded like it meant magic, but it actually meant what's your name. The word for dog was A, and the word for eye was Isha, although it seemed you needed a completely different word if you had 2 eyes instead of 1. Tikalo got the impression that learning Somali would be quite hard, unless you had parents to teach it to you when you were a baby. However, there were some easy words like potato, veggies, and fruit, which mean potato, veggies, and fruit. People's names had meanings too, although there was a disagreement about what the meanings were, or maybe there were just lots of meanings. One person wrote that whenever his family had to move someplace else, his father would load all their possessions onto the back of a camel, taking care to balance the weight evenly. There must be an equal number of kilos hanging off each side of the camel, he said. Sadly, there wasn't a picture, so Tikila could only guess what a kilo might be. She liked the idea of hanging off the side of a camel, though, especially if there was another one of her hanging off the other side. There were loads of different words for camel, none of which sounded anything like camel, and kamis meant thirsty. The word for father was abu, whilst mother was hoyo. The word for daughter was harder to figure out. At first she thought it was inanta, which sounded rather grand, but the other website said inanta was just the word for girl, and that daughter was actually gabat. But then other websites said that gabat meant slave girl or chestnut. Finally, the most trustworthy seeming people she could find said that when a father in Somaliland speaks to his daughter, he calls her Abu, the same name as himself. That was a bit strange, but sometimes strange things are true. Just in case she would ever need them, Tikila wrote Abu and Hoyo on the back of her school jotter, the one for history. Okay. We're already on page 16, but I think that's enough for now. I really enjoy the way the book is written. It reminds the comedy reminds me a little bit of, what is she called? Philomena Kunk, the comedian that does like the Netflix specials about like history and geography and stuff like that. You know, it's very like literal comedy. But yeah, I hope you could relax a little bit. I hope you could relieve your pain a little bit. I hope that I could help you a little bit. You're gonna be okay. Remember to drink your tea. And if nothing else works, it's completely fine to just take some painkillers. Okay? go now. You'll be alright. You have your blanket, you have your hot water bottle. The ice pack is still laying there in case you prefer that or want to exchange it. You have your tea, you have your painkillers. In case you want something nice to smell, you have the essential oil. And yeah, in case you do need more help, you can always call me. I'll be here if you need me. But I think you should close your eyes and rest a little now. Try to just relax your body. Just calm down a little. Try to let go of that pain and just close your eyes and see if you can fall asleep for a little while. Usually sleep is the best thing you can do. Yeah? Okay. Well, I hope you sleep well. If not, you can always call me. I'll be back. I'll be here to help you again if you wake back up again with pain. But if not, even better. So, you're gonna be alright. Yeah? You're gonna be alright. I hope you sleep well. Yeah? Let me turn the light